The forest of Vera 9 was alive with color and sound. Bioluminescent plants glowed softly in the dim light, casting green and blue hues over twisted trees and creeping vines. Mist rolled through the forest floor, curling around rocks and strange luminescent fungi that seemed to pulse like breathing hearts. Jack navigated carefully, his boots crunching over damp foliage, his eyes scanning the shadows for movement. Vera 9 had a reputation. It was beautiful, yes, but it was also dangerous. Predators lurked everywhere, and explorers had gone missing here before. Jack wasn't afraid. He had faced dangerous worlds before, and he trusted his instincts. His cruiser had dropped him here for a short reconnaissance mission, to study plant life that might be useful for medicine. He had his pulse pistol at his side, his belt stocked with small gadgets, and his mind focused on the task. Yet even he could not ignore the deep, echoing cries that suddenly cut through the forest. He froze. The sounds were urgent, frightened, and human ears weren't needed to recognize panic. The cries seemed to come from the east, where the trees were thickest and the light from the glowing flora barely reached the forest floor. Jack moved cautiously, following the sounds, crouching low and keeping to the shadows. As he approached a clearing, he saw her. The alien woman was unlike anything he had seen before. Her skin shimmered faintly under the forest lights, a mix of pale violet and silver tones. Her eyes were large and expressive, deep golden in color and full of fear. She was cornered against a moss-covered rock, and before her were 3 massive boars, their tusks glinting with bioluminescent streaks. Their muscles rippled as they lunged forward, sniffing the air and preparing to charge. Jack's heart raced. He didn't hesitate. He reached into his belt and pulled out the small energy net launcher. A quick calculation later, he fired. The net burst open midair, wrapping around the lead boar and tripping it as it charged. The others growled and hesitated, confused by the sudden obstacle. Jack didn't waste a second. He activated his pulse pistol, sending short, controlled bursts toward the boars. The blasts were not lethal, but enough to frighten them away, their glowing tusks flashing in alarm. The boars retreated, snorting and squealing, their massive feet pounding the forest floor as they disappeared into the shadows. Jack ran forward, kneeling beside the woman. She trembled, her breathing rapid. "Are you okay?" he asked, trying to keep his voice calm, reassuring. She stared at him wide-eyed and finally nodded. I think so. Thank you." Her voice was soft, musical, and slightly accented with tones he couldn't place. "Name?" he asked, offering a hand to help her up. "Lyra," she whispered. I didn't think I would survive," Jack nodded. "I'm Jack, you're safe now, but we need to move. Those boars might come back, or there may be others." Lyra hesitated, then nodded. She climbed to her feet with grace, moving almost like a predator herself, though clearly weakened. Jack could see her strength in the way she balanced despite exhaustion, yet she was clearly vulnerable. As they moved through the forest together, Lyra explained what had happened. She had been collecting rare medicinal plants for her village when the boars ambushed her. She had fought as best she could using a small dagger, but the creatures were too fast, too strong. Jack listened carefully, impressed by her bravery and resourcefulness. She was clearly not someone used to relying on others, yet now she had no choice but to trust a human. Jack guided her through narrow paths, ducking under vines and stepping over roots. He scanned the area constantly, noting the unusual signs. Broken branches, strange footprints, and the scent of other predators suggested this part of the forest had grown more dangerous than usual. He realized that taking Lyra with him was the only safe option. She was injured, and even if she could survive alone, the creatures here were relentless. They reached a steep cliffside that Jack had scouted earlier. His cruiser was hidden in a small clearing at the edge of the canyon, camouflaged among rocks and plants. As they approached, Lyra's eyes widened. "Your ship?" she asked, awe evident in her voice. "It flies?" Jack smiled faintly. "Yes, and it's fast. Fast enough to get us out of here before anything else finds us." She looked at him, a mixture of curiosity and cautious trust in her eyes. Jack offered her a hand, which she took without hesitation. He helped her climb the final rocks to reach the cruiser. Once inside, the alien woman was fascinated by the interior. The walls were sleek metal, softly lit panels glowing with controls, and the air hummed with the quiet power of the ship's systems. Jack guided her to a seat, strapping her in safely. "This might get a little bumpy," he said. "Hold on." She nodded, still observing everything with wide eyes. Jack activated the cruiser systems and the ship hummed louder, engines coming to life. Slowly, carefully, he lifted off, leaving the dangerous forest behind. Lyra pressed her hand to the window, watching the planet shrink beneath them. Your world. It's beautiful, she whispered. And deadly, Jack nodded. Most worlds are. That's why we explore carefully. The journey back into orbit was quiet at first. Lyra leaned back, exhausted, but Jack noticed her curiosity. She was asking questions now. Not just about the forest, but about him, about humans, about the technology he used. Jack answered patiently, impressed by her intelligence and the way she absorbed information. It was clear that she was no ordinary native. She was resourceful, brave, and smart. As the ship left the planet's atmosphere, Jack plotted a course to a neutral space station where they could find safety. Lyra watched the stars pass by, her fear slowly being replaced by awe and curiosity. Jack glanced at her from the cockpit, noting the quiet strength she carried even after the ordeal. This is far from over, he said softly. There are bigger dangers out there than boars. Lyra turned to him, eyes shining. I know, but if you are with me, I think I can face them. Jack felt a rare warmth in his chest. Humans had a saying, courage was contagious. It seemed in this case it could cross species as well. As the cruiser streaked through space, the two unlikely companions began to form a bond built on trust, respect, and mutual curiosity. Jack knew the galaxy was vast and dangerous, but with someone like Lyra by his side, he felt ready for anything. Lyra, for her part, was beginning to see humanity not as a threat, but as a force capable of great bravery and ingenuity. The stars stretched endlessly before them, a promise of adventure, danger, and discovery, and Jack and Lyra were ready to face it together. The cruiser hummed steadily as it cut through the darkness of space. Jack's hands moved over the controls with practiced ease, adjusting speed and trajectory while keeping an eye on sensors that scanned for potential threats. Lyra, still recovering from the trauma on Vera 9, was leaning against the observation window, watching distant stars blur into streaks as the ship accelerated. This ship... It's amazing, she said softly. I've never seen anything like it. On my planet, the fastest ships are slow and clunky. How does it move like this? Jack smiled faintly. It's called a cruiser. Advanced engines, low gravity field generators, and a few tricks humans learned over centuries. It can go places most ships only dream of. He glanced at her. But it's not just speed. You have to be careful. Space is more dangerous than your forest. Lyra tilted her head, curious. Dangerous? But there is nothing here, only stars. Jack shook his head. Stars are just the beginning. There are rogue asteroids, pirates, and strange storms in space. Some can destroy ships in seconds. Lyra's eyes widened. Pirates? Not the kind with swords, Jack said, chuckling. But some people or aliens will attack if they see an unprotected ship. That's why we have shields and weapons. For the first time since she had been rescued, Lyra allowed herself to relax. She leaned back in her seat and watched as Jack navigated the ship with skill and precision. Though quiet, there was an unmistakable aura of confidence about him. She realized humans like Jack were dangerous in their own way. Not aggressive, but strong, clever, and fearless. Hours passed as they traveled through open space. The cruiser glided past glowing nebulae, swirling clouds of cosmic dust and distant planets. Jack kept a steady course, plotting a path toward the nearest neutral space station, a hub for traders, scientists, and explorers from multiple species. Lyra asked questions constantly, absorbing everything about the ship, human technology, and the universe beyond her planet. Suddenly, the sensors beeped urgently. Jack leaned forward, eyes narrowing. Hold on, he said, gripping the controls. We've got company. On the screens, small blips appeared, moving fast toward them. Pirate scouts. They were lightly armed, but quick and aggressive. Jack frowned. They probably saw us leaving Vera 9 and decided we might be an easy target. Lyra instinctively crouched, her eyes scanning the view screens. What should we do? Jack smirked. We do what humans do best, outsmart them. He activated the ship's defense systems, cloaking them briefly and altering course to pass through an asteroid field nearby. The scouts followed, but the debris slowed them down. Jack maneuvered the cruiser with sharp precision, weaving between floating rocks, narrowly avoiding collisions. Lyra held onto the railing, impressed by his skill. Your reflexes. They are incredible, she said, awe in her voice. Jack shrugged. I've had practice. Humans tend to survive by thinking fast and acting faster. As they emerged from the asteroid field, The pirate scouts were left behind, frustrated and unable to catch the cruiser. Jack let out a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. Lyra smiled faintly, though tension still lingered. "Thank you," she said. "I don't think I could have survived them." Jack waved it off. "We make a good team. You spotted danger faster than my scanners could, and you stayed calm. That helped." For the next stretch of the journey, Jack allowed Lyra to explore the ship. She moved carefully, touching panels and examining displays. Jack explained how different systems worked: navigation, shields, communications, and weapons. Though she wasn't trained, she quickly understood the basics. He realized that her intelligence and quick learning made her more than just a survivor. She could be a valuable ally. As they traveled, they began to talk about their lives. Lyra described her village and the forests of her home planet, explaining the customs and challenges of living among dangerous creatures. Jack shared stories of Earth, of humans exploring space, and of the difficulties of surviving in hostile environments. Despite their differences, they found common ground in courage, curiosity, and resilience. Several days into the journey, the cruiser approached a massive gas cloud. Jack's sensors detected unusual energy readings. "Hold on," he said, adjusting the shields. "This isn't just a cloud, there's turbulence and charged particles. Could damage the ship if we're not careful." Lyra watched as Jack navigated through the swirling gas, the ship vibrating from the electrical interference. "I've never seen anything like this," she whispered. "It's dangerous, but beautiful." Jack grinned. "That's space. Always beautiful, always deadly." After careful maneuvering, they emerged safely on the other side. Both felt a sense of relief. Lyra's respect for the human before her had grown even more. She realized that humans were capable of facing dangers even she had never imagined. Finally, after several more days, the neutral space station appeared on the sensors. Towering structures floated in orbit, lights blinking in organized patterns, docking bays opening and closing as ships of all sizes arrived and departed. Jack guided the cruiser toward an empty bay, carefully aligning it for a smooth landing. Inside the station, they were greeted by a variety of aliens and humans. Traders with multiple arms, engineers with translucent skin, and pilots of every imaginable species moved through the corridors. Lyra's eyes were wide with amazement. "So many creatures, all living together?" Jack nodded. "It's a hub. Everyone comes here to trade, rest, and repair their ships. It's neutral territory. Dangerous, but generally safe. However, not everyone welcomed them." A group of aliens eyed Jack and Lyra suspiciously, murmuring among themselves. Jack noticed but stayed calm. Lyra, despite her exhaustion, instinctively stepped forward beside him, showing she trusted him and would not be intimidated. One of the station officials, a tall alien with golden eyes, approached. "You're human," he said, "and you have an unfamiliar alien aboard." "State your purpose," Jack stepped forward, confident. "We're travelers seeking safe passage and supplies. The woman was in danger on her planet. I rescued her." The official's eyes narrowed, then softened slightly as Lyra spoke. "It's true. He saved my life. I am Lyra of Vera 9. Without him, I would have died." Whispers rippled through the nearby crowd. Jack noticed some skepticism, but the respect in Lyra's voice and her calm demeanor seemed to convince most. Over the next few days, Jack and Lyra repaired minor damages to the cruiser, traded for supplies, and learned more about the other species on the station. Lyra was fascinated by the diversity of life and the technology humans had developed to survive in space. Jack, meanwhile, admired her intelligence, bravery, and curiosity. He realized that she was not only grateful, but also genuinely interested in forming a partnership. One evening, as they watched the stars from a quiet observation deck, Lyra spoke softly. "Jack, I have seen many brave humans in stories, but you are different. You face danger not for glory, but because it must be done. I trust you more than I can explain." Jack looked at her, considering his words carefully. Humans have a saying, "Courage is not the absence of fear, but the ability to act despite it." You've shown me the same. We've both survived dangers most could not imagine. A silence fell, comfortable and filled with understanding. Both realized that this partnership went beyond survival. It was mutual respect, trust, and a shared sense of purpose. Before departing, Jack and Lyra made a plan. They would return to her planet, not just for her safety, but to help her people face ongoing threats. Jack would teach her what he could about technology, strategy, and survival, while Lyra would guide him through her world's hazards and knowledge. Together, they could achieve far more than either could alone. As the cruiser prepared to leave the station, Lyra looked out at the stars, hope and determination in her eyes. "I never imagined a human would save me, or that I would come to trust one so completely," Jack smiled. "You underestimate humanity. We survive, we adapt, and sometimes we do the unexpected. That's why we're still exploring, still surviving. And sometimes we find allies in the most unlikely places." The cruiser lifted from the station, engines roaring softly as they set a course for Vera 9. The stars stretched before them, vast and unknown, full of dangers and possibilities. Jack and Lyra, human and alien, prepared to face whatever awaited on her planet, ready to prove that courage, intelligence, and trust could bridge worlds. And in the darkness of space, a new partnership had been forged, one that promised survival, adventure, and the enduring heroism of humanity, extending beyond Earth to the farthest stars. The journey was far from over, but Jack and Lyra knew they would face the future together. Whatever threats awaited, whatever challenges came, humanity had shown again that it could rise, adapt, and protect not just itself, but others across the galaxy.